Good evening, guys. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com here in the old home medical tent, following Purdue's 87-73 win over Iowa in Mackey Arena, a game I did not attend, but I am still more than qualified to talk about on video for anywhere between 8 and 48 minutes here at home. Thank you to the Purdue Union Club Hotel for your promotional support of these rap videos and so forth all these years. It is very much appreciated. Again, number one Purdue 87, Iowa 73. Another big step forward for Purdue in its hunt for a Big Ten title of some kind. A big step forward. This was, Iowa's, I think one of the five best teams in the Big Ten probably, and this is your only meeting with them. This is one you kind of had to have. You didn't have to have. You still would be in a great position if you didn't get it, but it closes some pathways for some people in some ways. So it was a big win in the Big Ten race, obviously. I think from a competitive perspective, this was a telling moment for Purdue. I think, the Indiana game was the first time that they were a little bit unsteadied by a competitive environment. I don't want to say shaken by a competitive environment, but that first half at IU kind of was what it was. I don't know what more this team has to prove of its competitive mettle. Probably nothing. But this was another game after another new experience for this Purdue team. And, as much as they've done, as deep into the season as this is, there is still a lot of new stuff going on here. A lot of stuff that Purdue kind of jumped right over in December and January that is coming up now. And obviously Purdue had no issue whatsoever. If you know Braden Smith at all, if you know of Braden Smith at all, if you know Fletcher Lawyer at all or know of Fletcher Lawyer at all, you know that when they struggled, to various extents at Indiana, it was far more likely to bring the best out of them than the worst out of them. And I think that's exactly what you saw from both of those guys. Obviously, Braden Smith being the star of this game with his 8 of 10 shooting, 24 points, 5 assists, and all of that, and just the general command he had of this game. You just can't say enough about those two guys. If those guys stay together at Purdue 3 or 4 years, Purdue's going to win multiple championships of some kind with both of those guys, and I wouldn't anticipate any other scenario playing out than that. They're on the verge of their first one as just freshmen here. The Big Ten pathway here is really narrowing for everybody else, and this is going to be the first of a few rings these guys are going to have a chance to earn in their Purdue careers. But you really saw what Braden Smith especially is made of competitively. Not that you had to know, not that you had to see it again. If you have been watching the season with your eyes closed, maybe you needed to see it. But this is what he is. He's just sort of that ultimate competitor with ultimate pride and ultimate kind of everything you want. That's a really articulate way to put that, but that's kind of what he is. And it's not about the shot making. That's nice, but it's just about how he responded to the way he played at Rutgers, how he responded to the way he played in Indiana. And this is how great players become great players. They go through adversity, they respond to it, they learn from it, and all of that. And in that sense, Braden Smith is right on par. And so is Fletcher Lawyer, for that matter. And, you just can't say enough about what those guys have done for Purdue this year. And you just can't overstate the possibilities for them moving forward in their Purdue careers. I know the topic is probably the press, because we love talking about the press after games like this. As soon as Purdue got up 16 points or whatever it was in the first half, this is how this game was going to go. There was no way around this. There were going to be turnovers. There were going to be easy buckets for Iowa. There were going to be some nervous moments. Iowa did win a game like this in Mackey Arena a few years back, almost exactly like this. But that's how it was going to be. And, Purdue turned the ball over more than it would like. It gave Iowa some points, but the game conditions are the bigger deal than I think any consternation there should be over Purdue's ability to to defeat a press. Purdue has been pressed left and right all season long. Maybe not in a few weeks, but their non-conference schedule worked out ideally with Florida State, West Virginia, Marquette, and so on. And I think Purdue's fine there. I think Purdue's strategic misstep against the press was getting up so big, because then that invited it. But I think that this is how it was going to be. And at the end of the day, you made Iowa press, and you shot 69% in the second half, and you scored 87 points, which is a really big number for Iowa to have to surpass. Had Purdue been able to get to the bonus a little bit earlier in the second half, how you can have Ross-Ade on your team and how you can have your guards being blitzed the entirety of the second half and not get to the bonus until less than 2 minutes remain in the game. I don't know if that's a Purdue issue. I don't know if that's a Courtney Green issue. I don't know if that's a James Breeding issue or a Kevin Brill issue. Those are the three officials, in case you didn't know that. But that just didn't stand a reason. That second half profiled to be the sort of half where Purdue's in the bonus with like 8 minutes to go. And if that ends up being the case, then, Purdue wins this game by a lot more than they did, probably. Keep in mind the scoring numbers. The game was lit on fire by tempo. So even though this game got close a couple times, this wasn't Purdue breaking down defensively. This was just the tempo of the game being driven by the scoreboard. And so I don't know how much you really concern yourself with the second half here. Obviously, you would have liked to have kept building on your lead, so on and so forth. But I don't think that's always reality, especially in the Big Ten, especially against Iowa. They're good at what they do. Again, as I said before, as soon as Purdue got up double digits early in that first half, this is how this game was going to go. I wish I had written that. I wish I had said that real time, but I've seen this game before a few times, and this is always how it was going to go. So if you thought this was some sort of red flag that all of a sudden was being raised on Purdue here, and I know it's kind of low-hanging fruit as a topic for the TV people to be like, what happens in March when they get pressed? Well, probably the same stuff that happened in November when Purdue didn't lose a game and barely was challenged. But anyhow, I just think those freshman guards, really drove this. The one thing that jumps out to me immediately after this game, which you could take as a red flag against the press if you want, is I think there have been a couple of games this year where opponents really heat up Braden Smith, and at the end of the game, he's just gassed. And I think that came into play a little bit tonight. Obviously, there was the one sequence where he was just done and had to ask out. But I also think that there might come games like this sometimes where your only primary ball handler is probably running on fumes at the end of the game, and then you're just going to have to kind of survive. But I don't think a lot of the issue tonight was about Purdue not knowing what to do or Purdue panicking or anything like that. I do think that might be something Matt Painter needs to start managing a little bit. And I know Braden Smith is probably your second most important player. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. I don't know why I wouldn't. But and I know you don't have a lot of true ball handler options with him. This is just one of those things Purdue all season long has had to overcome with its non-traditional point guard mix. Maybe if you could get him a little more time in the first half here and there, if game conditions allow, maybe if you can get him out maybe an extra minute in the middle of the second half, something like that. I don't know, but it might be something Purdue has to manage because this isn't the first time I thought that, Braden Smith down in the last few minutes of a game has been a little bit physically taxed. They are coming after him. They are really making him work, and he plays really fast anyway. He plays really hard. He's always been a guy who plays with all his dials turned up. So this might be an issue, that Purdue has to keep an eye on, that they have to make sure he's fresh at the end of games. It's easier said than done. You don't have another true point guard. You have one true point guard and a bunch of kind of number two point guards. or I'm sorry, you have one primary ball handler and you have a bunch of kind of secondary ball handlers that have kind of made this sort of mosaic of ball handling that has worked for Purdue, but you don't have that second guy that you can really pop in there and just expect to just not even flinch against really high level pressure. It's just that's kind of something to keep an eye on, kind of moving forward. Last couple points to make here is this was like the consummate Caleb first game. You have to give him a lot of credit here too, to get 11 and 10 without having to run really any offense for him, and just the extra possessions he gets you, just the classic invisible productivity that sort of jumps out to you when the game is over with. Between him and Mason Gillis, guys you don't, quote unquote, use in your offense, guys who don't eat a lot of possessions, for them to get 9 of 12 shooting what is going on here? Sorry, I just had brain surgery. I'm looking at rebounds. For those guys to come out and get you 21 points without really running a whole lot of stuff for them, and all the extra possessions they get you off the glass, that just beats you right there. That's that hidden productivity, I've always kind of talked about with Purdue teams, that just kills you. That's just where you win games. The stuff beyond the stars, the stuff beyond the foundational stuff, the stuff beyond Ross-Ade and the 3-point shooting and all that stuff. That is winning basketball right there. Just when your fourth and fifth options and your the second half of your rotation type guys, when those guys are that productive on that little volume, that is just a really, really tough recipe for anybody to overcome. And Caleb first really led that tonight. Again, 11 and 10 in 24 minutes, 5 of 5 from the floor. Did everything right. Always made himself available when he was open. I think Braden Smith's making all these guys better too. I think a big part of the difference you've seen in Ross-Ade this year, a big part of the difference you've seen in Caleb first this year, is just Braden Smith. Just how he has elevated the people around him from day one at Purdue has just been transformational. It's just been transformational. I think that's what I got. So a really good win for Purdue here. Obviously, I think you're not all that far off from being able to start printing T-shirts, folks. If Purdue wins at Northwestern, you're not all that far off from getting to print T-shirts. I don't know if they'd say co-champions or champions, but you're not all that far off from being able to print T-shirts. So that's what I got. Mike, again, will go up to Evanston to cover the Northwestern game this weekend, but I will be here, like I always am, ready to hit the play button and talk. So I will talk to you guys again after Purdue goes and plays at Northwestern this weekend. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, no matter how it is you process our materials. And thank you once again to the Purdue Union Club Hotel for your support. We appreciate it very much. And we'll be talking to you guys. Thanks a lot.